Okay, two big news today. President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, said the president reimbursed lawyer Michael Cohen for a hush money payment to a porn star. And he also said that this whole Russia collusion investigation is nothing but a witch hunt, and Robert Mueller, special counsel Robert Mueller, should stop this case immediately. And 3 Americans held in a North Korean prison will be released later today, according to Rudy Giuliani as well. Hi, I'm Michael Wan, your host for Michael Wan's Op-Ed Live, and this is LA County Assessor Jeffrey Prang. Our show, Op-Ed Live, is not about left or right, it's about what's right or wrong. So Jeffrey, before we dive into our topics, we have to mention that there was some really big and great news for you recently. You got endorsed by the LA Times. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yes, I was very proud to receive that support. It's a great testament to the work we've been doing in the assessor's office the last 4 years, and I'm thrilled. Thank you very much.
Were you confident when you did the interview with the editorial board?
You know, you can never be confident in those sort of things. The LA Times sometimes is unpredictable at how they will make endorsements, but I felt very good, very positive about the work we've been doing in the assessor's office for the last 4 years. We've restored integrity. We've enhanced our technology and public service. By any measure that people care about our office, things are better. And I was hoping that I could convince them of that, and I think I did.
Okay, I thought that you would get it because the previous LA County assessor, he was horrible. You know, he was involved in
he went to jail.
Corruption. So I thought that if you are just corruption-free, you would get the endorsement. That's what I thought. That was my thinking.
Well, you know, when I first was elected, somebody said, all you got to do is stay out of jail and you're going to be raising the bar. But I think we've done a lot more than just get rid of the corruption.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Provided added value to the people of LA County.
Okay,
so
that's
thank you
well.
much.
Anyway, that's very great news, and we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's dive into our first topic. So President Trump's new attorney, Rudy Giuliani, said that Attorney General Jeff Sessions should close special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. And at the same time, GOP is also pressuring on Capitol Hill to find out whether the investigation has gone beyond its original mandate. Giuliani also criticized Jeff Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein as well yesterday. This is what Giuliani said. The basis of the case is dead. Russia collusion investigation has turned up no evidence. Sessions should step in and close it. Giuliani also said that not taking the Attorney General job in the first place is his biggest regret. Additionally, Giuliani said that the president reimbursed lawyer Michael Cohen for a hush money payment to a porn star through a legal retainer. Your thoughts on this whole issue, Jeffrey?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, it is astonishing, beyond words, that the representative of the President of the United States is speaking on behalf of the President of the United States, attacking his own Department of Justice, his own appointee of Attorney General, his own appointee for Deputy Attorney General. I think that's just unprecedented, and it's bizarre. Secondly, I still disagree fundamentally with his conclusion that the investigation should be brought to an end. Mueller is continuing to connect the dots. He's continuing to release information. I think he's continuing to encircle those who might be implicated. We need to give him the time to finish his work. The one thing about Mueller is that nobody doubts his professionalism. Nobody doubts his integrity. He has not commented publicly in any way to try to manipulate this investigation in the media. Let him finish his job. Everyone knows in the law enforcement community that the FBI, that federal investigations are slow and careful. You don't want to begin casting aspersions until you have all of your evidence, and sometimes that just requires time.
I think regarding the Robert Mueller, I think that is known for the mainstream media that he is some kind of a reputable figure. I doubt that a little bit. This came out from the Boston Globe that there was a Whitey Bulger case. I don't know whether you remember that.
I do.
Whitey Bulger case. Robert Mueller was the FBI director at that time, and there were 4 people who were charged. Later, they were found innocent. 2 people died in prison. So I think Robert Mueller, I view him a little bit differently. I do think he's a patriot. You know, he was a Marine. He was in the Marine Corps, and you know, he was a former FBI director. But actually, I mean, if we have to be honest about it, 9/11 happened under his watch. He was the FBI director at that time. So I can't give him a perfect point. So I disagree when people say he's a really, you know, the most authoritative, like reputable person out there. I think he has a lot of. It even came out with LA Times. LA Times came out with a long article regarding Robert Mueller that he had some that he uses this pit bull, Andrew Weissman. You heard Andrew Weissman, and he would just go on and just go beyond the scope of his investigation, and there were like some evidences that he hid from the judge, and he was excoriated for that. Andrew Weissman was excoriated for that. So there were some records, botched records, behind Robert Mueller's the cases that he brought. So I kind of.
But the bottom line, he has a career that spans 30 or 40 years. In your career, in my career, we're all going to have. Occasions when we did not perform as well as we wanted to, and I'm sure he had his moments as well. But his career has been marked by one of honor and distinction and integrity, despite some periodic blips. It's hard to judge somebody's entire career by one or two episodes that may not have been done perfectly. But when it comes to 9/11, the George Bush administration was made aware of the risk by the Clinton National Security Team. Yeah. It was the president and his people who ignored it, not Mueller, who failed to provide that information.
Well, we can go back and forth regarding that. Some people blame the Clinton administration, that that they had actually a chance to kill off bin Laden, but they botched that. But yeah, I mean, for me to hide like exculpatory evidence back during the Whitey Bulger case, and that was Andrew Weissman, but he hired him again for this case. So I think. To me, it's alarming, and also if you look at the Mueller team, they're all anti-Trump. I mean, Jeannie Ray. I mean, she's a Korean American, a lawyer. She used to be a lawyer for the Clinton Foundation, and if you look down all the list of the special counsel team, they're all donors for the Democratic Party and the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Those people are gone. That happened in the first couple of months.
No. You're talking about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. They were gone because they exchanged text messages showing anti-Trump sentiments. They said, we can't have this kind of buffoon in the office. We got to, have an insurance policy to prevent that. So that's why Robert Mueller said, they have to be gone, and the Inspector General released those text messages. So that's why they were gone. Other than that, if you look at all those teams, Jeannie Rhee and other members of that special counsel team, they're huge donors for the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton campaign. It is true.
The people on the Mueller team are not Democratic donors.
They are.
They may be incidental donors, but they're not major Democratic donors. That's simply untrue.
If you look at the list, they gave a lot of money to that. And Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director for the FBI, his wife ran for state of Virginia, right, state senator, and she got tons of money from Hillary campaign people. So I think they're all. There's
nothing wrong and nothing suspicious about that. People run for office, get money from their supporters.
But I view that as, if your spouse is running for a position and you get money from Hillary Clinton people, I see conflict of interest. I see with Robert Mueller, you know what I see? I see conflict of interest. He shouldn't have been chosen as a special counsel in the first place. He was interviewed. He was interviewed for the FBI director position right after Trump fired Comey. The next day, he interviewed him. He decided not to go with him. He picked Christopher Wray. The next day, when Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general, he appointed, after he recommended Trump to fire Comey, and that's what exactly Trump did, then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel. There's conflict of interest. I would, if I'm Mueller, I'm angry that I would be overlooked as an FBI director. So I
he already was the FBI director
he
for a dozen years.
Former, but anyway, he wanted it again. But he wanted it again. So that's why he did the interview, right? But he didn't pick him.
Maybe we haven't heard that. That's not really
for me. Robert Mueller, James Comey, they're buddies. They're friends. So for him. So who knows that Robert Mueller secretly wants to revenge it for his friend? I get that feeling
that is terribly speculative.
I think
it's unfair based on the evidence that we have about Mueller. Mueller is a distinguished public servant, and to undermine him, I think, is really unfair. To undermine his credibility and his effectiveness.
I'm not trying to just.
And I think he's actually been very effective in this position. He is staying out of the mud. He's not playing the public. They're just doing their job.
Okay, I would say this. The Republicans are angry about the fact that his team is pretty much all Clinton. You can't find a Republican there. If you look at the list, they're all donors for the Democrats.
That's simply unfair.
What I think, okay, Robert Mueller issue, the issue that I have is he was the FBI director when the Uranium One scandal came out. You know, America gave 1/5 of their uranium to Russia, even though America relies 90% of import of uranium. America needs more uranium, and uranium is made for what? Nuclear weapons.
This is a Republican smear against Mueller.
I don't
think
it's
unfair.
I consider myself independent. When I see corruption, I just hammer both sides. And I think Hillary Clinton, to be honest with you, I think she should have been charged. If I deleted 33,000 emails, and you know I showed you some articles from Politico, she damaged some of her personal.
Her staff did.
Her staff did, yeah. But anyway, that in itself is crazy. You know, I really think she should have been charged. I mean,
just so you know, that very same article
there are
also
two-tier
stated,
justice system that's going on in this country, Jeffrey. I really believe that, and you know, I try to see this both sides. If Trump did this, I would criticize him every single day. But when you see this,
you're not criticizing Trump.
Because in this case, you know what happened when Barack Obama said back in October of 2016, a month before the election was held, when Trump was saying the whole system is rigged, you know, the election is rigged, he said there is no smidgen of evidence that that the American election can be meddled by anybody or any country. He said that from his own words. But let's see what happened. Trump won on November 8th. He won in a landslide, and then Obama said, I really think Obama said, man, I can't believe this happened. We got to blame somebody. Let's kind of make something. And I exactly remember the day when he said, you know, Russia has been meddling. We got to find out about this. Why didn't he do that during his when he was the president of the United States? He didn't do that. You know, he botched it.
But what is clear is
I don't think you can blame it on the next president about this.
It is clear that there was meddling. It is clear that Trump and his associates had contacts with the Russians that are questionable, that are subject to this Mueller investigation, and we need to know what Trump knew and when he knew it. Why was his son, why was his former campaign manager meddling with the Russians?
Do you know,
these are people who were paid for by the Russians, who were honored by Putin, and Trump's unwillingness to criticize Putin and the Russians is
Do you think he didn't criticize Putin? He put a whole bunch of sanctions that Obama didn't put.
No, he didn't.
Obama did not put those sanctions.
He withdrew those sanctions. He applied them, they withdrew them. That he allowed his administration to apply sanctions, and then he quietly undid those.
I say this, Democrats, I'm not saying the Democratic Party here in California, I'm talking about the National Committee. They accuse the Donald Trump of what they are actually doing. The Uranium One scandal, I think it's a huge deal. $145 million for the Clinton campaign to get that, you know, chunk of money. And Clinton, usually his speech rate goes for $250,000 per speech. He got $500,000 for a speech in Moscow, and then give out 1/5 of American uranium. You need 9 agencies to do that, of course. But if the Secretary of State says, okay, you have to pretty much go along. You know how politics works. You can't go against it. So that's what happened. So to me, it seems like Hillary Clinton people had colluded with Russia. And even the Trump dossier, the Christopher Steele dossier, where did it come from? The opposition research firm called Fusion GPS, they hired Christopher Steele, an ex-MI6 agent from Great Britain. Why did they even involve a foreign, agent? So it's okay for the Democratic Party to bring in the foreign national. So anyway, he went to Russia, and he got it from Russians. So I see this as a collusion from the Democratic Party. If the Republican Party did it, Jeffrey, I would criticize them. But I think
they are doing it, and you should criticize them. The Republicans
Okay, you said that. Okay, the meeting, the Trump Tower meeting. I'll talk about the Trump Tower meeting.
No, let's not talk about Trump Tower meeting. Let's talk about all the things that Trump is doing that will lead the American people to be suspicious of his activities. He lies incessantly. He's his relationship with the Russians and all of his people.
Russia. Well, what did he lie about the Russia collusion thing? I didn't see anything coming out of his mouth.
He lied about these meetings, whether they took place. His staff have lied about whether these meetings have taken place. He has stated to both Lester Holt in his interview and just now that
for the Lester Holt interview, what did he say?
He told him that he wanted to get rid of Comey so that he could relieve
Why did he
tension on
want
the
to get rid of Comey? Today it came out. Yesterday Rudy Giuliani. We see his picture here. He did an interview yesterday with Fox News' John Hannity. Okay, the reason why Trump fired him, and I think I would have fired him too, because James Comey told President Trump, you are not the target of the Russia collusion investigation. The Trump campaign is. Then Donald Trump told him, hey, say that in public, because he obviously said it during the Hillary Clinton investigation that no reasonable prosecutor would charge her. So if he wasn't, and James Comey privately told President Trump that he's not the target of the collusion investigation, why couldn't he say it in public so that he gets exonerated?
Because he was a subject.
But at
of the
that time, he didn't even mention that. So that's why he fired him.
This is important, Michael. There is a difference between being a target and a subject. He may not have been the target, but he was a part of that investigation. And when you are investigating people, you do not reveal to the public what you know because things can change.
Okay.
He could have become the target.
Okay,
that
so
would make
James
it responsible
Comey,
for him to have said that.
I mean, I think this
publicly.
Russia collusion thing, to me, it's a nonsense because, okay, James Comey, he himself said the Christopher Steele dossier is salacious and unverified. Even recently, a couple days ago, he said it's unverified during all interviews. James Comey said it out of his own mouth, you know? And if you look at the facts, it's all completely crazy nonsense. Somebody just made it up. I think I don't know, Hillary Clinton people might have made it up. They just made it up with the $13 million they spent for this dossier, which is ridiculous in itself. And they created this farce, and they wiretapped this. They wiretapped him. And James Comey didn't even reveal that this came from an opposition party, opposition research firm. He hid that fact from the FISA court. So that's why I believe James Comey should be charged. He should be prosecuted for that fact alone. That fact alone, he has to be. This is completely insane. You know, if this happened to
is insane.
If
the Democrats, James Comey.
I don't see any evidence so far. You know,
I see evidence coming out all over the place.
I mean, okay, Trump Tower meeting. Okay, let's talk about the Trump Tower meeting.
There are so many different connections between Donald Trump and his associates and the Russians, and they lie every single step about those connections. And Bob Mueller is focusing on trying to connect those dots. And
you know what I think? I think the biggest mistake Donald Trump did was to appoint Jeff Sessions as an attorney general. To me, Jeff Sessions looks like a fool, you know? Why would he recuse himself? He didn't have anything to do with Russia. Why did he even recuse himself? I just don't understand
because
it.
He had meetings with the Russians.
So the Russians
and he lied about it.
And the Russians also had meeting with other Democratic senators at that time too.
But Sessions lied about it before Congress.
He didn't meet them as a campaign member. He met them as a senator for Alabama, and he was in the committee.
It doesn't matter. He understands when you meet with the Russian ambassador, you got to disclose that.
That in itself is insane. And you're giving
him a pass.
It's okay for
How come
Hillary?
You're not being as tough on Jeff Sessions and having those meetings? You said you'd be just as
because
tough on
them. Those meetings were not a secret meeting. It was wide open. It was an open meeting.
Then why did he hide it? Why didn't he disclose it to Congress?
He forgot about it. He forgot about it.
How convenient. He forgets about everything. It's really interesting how Jeff Sessions...
that's what I'm saying. So Jeff Sessions shouldn't have been even appointed for Attorney General.
But you can make that same argument about all of his appointees.
I think he should have picked this guy, Rudy Giuliani.
Scott Pruitt should not have been appointed to the head of...
You know what I blame Trump? Trump shouldn't have appointed Jeff Sessions. He should have hired this guy, but Rudy Giuliani, he had his own... I'll just have this point. Rudy Giuliani has his own political aspiration to become U.S. president. That's how I see it. That's why he asked Trump, hey, I don't want Attorney General. I want Secretary of State, because usually you don't jump from AG to presidency. But from Secretary of State, you can pretty much aim U.S. president. I think that was his ultimate goal. And because of all that, this whole thing came out. Just by meeting a Russian, that's not illegal. To me, that's not illegal. Why is it illegal?
It's not illegal, but
if you're a president and if you're an elected official president, of course you have to reach out. And Russia is a very important country, whether we like them or not, in this political world. We have to contact them. What's so wrong about that? Michael Flynn got fired because he hid that fact. I don't understand why he hid that fact. So of course he was let go of that.
And Jeff Sessions hid facts too. And here's the bigger thing: why you're right? Jeff Sessions should not have been appointed Attorney General because President Trump said he was going to drain the swamp and he was going to bring in the best people. And he has not drained the swamp. He has filled his cabinet with swamp dwellers from Wall Street.
You know who the swamp is?
He has appointed the worst people, so from Scott Pruitt to Ryan Zinke to Rex Tillerson to Jeff Sessions. Virtually everybody he's put in his cabinet have been incompetent and do not...
I think your point of swamp and my point of swamp is different. To me, do you know where the ultimate swamp lies? To me, that lies with James Comey and Rod Rosenstein. It's the FBI and the Attorney General that has so rotten to its core that this whole mess came out. They shouldn't have even, exonerated Hillary Clinton. Did you know that they wrote the exoneration letter before 17 interviewing 17 witnesses, including Hillary Clinton. To me, that's just crazy. You can't do things like that. How can you not even interview and write an exoneration letter? To me, that's just corruption to its core. I mean, I'm sorry. If this happened
I don't agree with you. I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever to think that there's any corruption on that. Hillary Clinton is probably
incomprehensible.
She is the most investigated cabinet secretary in history.
You don't think she should have been charged with,
no, I don't think
her deleting, all the emails and destroying all her cell phones and stuff like that, and giving out SIM card, giving her out phone without SIM card? To me, that's crazy.
There's a difference between corruption and making decisions that are not part of best practices. Even those stories that you sent me, they stipulated that destroying a government cell phone when it was no longer useful was the best way to ensure that encrypted information could not be...
that's what I say. FBI and Attorney General, they have a separate standard for Hillary Clinton and all those, people. I think there are two-tier justice system that is in play. I really think if an ordinary person damaged those, evidences, and they were subpoenaed, but they destroyed it anyway. How can you do that? If I'm subpoenaed and I have some evidences and I purposely destroyed, I would say anybody would get charged for that. I'm just saying that, Jeffrey. I mean, if the Trump, okay, I would say this. I would say that if something comes out, in his final investigation. I mean, I think Robert Mueller is going to pretty much interview Donald Trump, right, for 2 or 3 hours max. He asked for 12 hours, but Rudy Giuliani put a cap to 2 to 3 hours because that's what Bill Clinton did. So that was the standard that he's been using. If something comes out that I don't know, that completely out of the blue, then I would accept it. But to me, it looks like the whole thing was. If I have to put a title, it's framing Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. This whole thing is framing.
Donald Trump is making his own bed. He is appointing incompetent people.
But so far, you don't have any evidence, too, right, that he had colluded. What evidence do you have? I want to know.
We have enough information to tell us that there's something to really be concerned about. His campaign manager, his senior aides, his son, who are meeting with the Russians.
But Paul Manafort was charged.
His business connections in Russia, his attempt to build a Trump hotel in Russia, his inability and his unwillingness to go after the Russians, to apply sanctions, then to withdraw them.
He applied a lot of sanctions. Come on.
And then he withdrew them. He did
not. It's
yes,
still
he
going
did. No,
on.
he did not. It was just he just withdrew He announced sanctions and then he refused to apply them.
But there are still a lot of sanctions in play.
He has signed off on sanctions that were passed by Congress and then he did not put them into effect.
And Trump deregulated.
And why will he not attack?
Deregulated so that it damages Russia's economic power. And also the Trump Tower meeting. To me, there's no evidence. And there has been report that the lady, the female lawyer, the female lawyer who held that meeting, who requested that meeting, she was in touch with, do you know what? Fusion GPS. You know Fusion GPS. She was in touch with Fusion GPS, and it was the Obama administration. The Obama administration.
Fusion GPS.
I agree. But Russia was not involved, and Christopher Steele was not involved at that time. And they were pretty much. And it was Jeb Bush. It was Jeb Bush, right? It was Jeb Bush.
Why are you not concerned about all these Russian interaction?
I don't see any interaction, There was a meeting, and then the meeting came out with nothing. If something came out with that meeting, I would like to see, but nothing came out of it.
From Rex Tillerson, Michael Flynn, Trump himself have long connections and in financial investments in Russia. His family was involved with the Russians. All these things are not alarming to you?
But what has that got to do? I mean, what do you mean that by Michael Flynn had business? I've never read about that. That Michael Flynn had some business
he was a consultant.
They thought that there was something suspicious about Michael Flynn because he took a picture with Vladimir Putin beside him.
It was more than that. He was being paid as a consultant.
Not from Russia. It was a different country. It was Ukraine. So I don't believe this whole thing. I mean, we have different opinions about this. I really think this is the biggest, craziest hoax that is put upon, and the mainstream media has been brainwashing people regarding this. If Trump did this to somebody else, or if George W. Bush did this to Obama, I would criticize them too. To me, this is just a blame. They wanted Trump. They just hate Trump. I really believe the mainstream. I mean, I know the reporters. They hate Trump to its guts, and they want him impeached no matter what. They just hate. I mean, even Maxine Waters, the congresswoman, she said, even though there's no evidence, we should just impeach him. That's what she said. I think they have this Trump derangement syndrome. Whatever Trump does, even this North Korea, I really see that some of the mainstream media, they're taking Kim Jong-un's side over Trump. That, you know, they really wish that he would botch this whole deal. You know, we're on the verge of something really historical. We're going to talk about it in the next topic. But for him to have this fake Russia investigation thing is, to me, it's the most tragic thing that I've ever seen. I think this is bigger than Watergate, this whole thing, and I think there is a two-tier justice system that is in play, and it's tragic. And you know, when I go home sometimes, you know, I'm honestly telling you, you know, when I read this report and watch TV, I get so depressed about this. If I see a smidgen of evidence of Donald Trump colluding with Russia, then I would play along with it. And there are some legal experts saying collusion itself is not against the U.S. Constitution. So that is a separate issue. But I get so depressed about this news, talking about Russia scandal all the time, every day. It's so depressing, and to me, I get so, I mean, it's resentful. I resent this whole narrative that the mainstream media is playing, and it's just disappointing.
I feel the same way, Michael, but it's exactly the opposite. I believe that Trump is incompetent. I believe that he is engaged with the Russians.
You think he's incompetent? But the economy has been doing well. You know, the unemployment rate has dropped dramatically, and the black and Hispanic.
Now
but it's still higher. I mean, it did go back and forth.
And again, I think you're giving totally too much credit to Donald Trump and the things he's done.
Yeah, but let's see how this all plays out. I mean, to me, it's very depressing. Whenever I see this Russia scandal issue coming out, you know, it's always on the top news everywhere. It is really depressing to see this whole thing. Jeffrey, can you give me this? If this whole thing is found out that out of nothing, that somebody just created this whole Trump dossier thing, and they pretty much wiretap people regarding that, wouldn't you be depressing? What do you think? Hypothetically speaking, if you have complete 100% verifiable evidence that this whole thing was made up and they wanted to frame Donald Trump, even though I know that you hate Donald Trump to his guts, what would you say?
I do not hate.
What would you say?
I don't hate anybody.
I want to know, hypothetically, if this whole thing was a hoax, which I believe 200%, this whole thing, and I've been following American politics on a daily basis since '90. So I want to know your opinion. If this whole thing was fabricated by the opposition party, and they used, and if there's a deep state, you know, and Attorney General office, and also the FBI, CIA, they all connected the dots. You know, James Clapper, Jim Brennan, and you know James Comey, they all colluded with this whole thing. What would you say if that comes out as evidence? You know, that they colluded this whole thing. What do you think? If James Comey gets charged, and what is your opinion? I wanted to know your opinion.
Well, that's simply an absurd scenario, and
I'm talking about even though if that's true, you couldn't accept it. Well, if that comes out to be true,
I will base my opinion based on the evidence.
That's how I believe. I mean, this is 100%. I mean, because I saw the Trump dossier, though. You know. But yeah, go ahead.
I will base my opinion based on the evidence. What we know right now is we have Donald Trump and his minions are attempting to undermine the foundational institutions of this nation, our law enforcement, the FBI, federal officials, even his own Justice Department. We have respected investigators who are trying to determine if there are any facts. And you have Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani saying, let's not look for the facts. Let's just say it's over with.
So you're believing the Trump dossier. That's what you're doing, pretty much.
No,
but because this whole investigation, it's obviously from that dossier. That's why they were wiretapped. So you think it has merit. That's your basis about this collusion.
No, that's not what I said. I said we need to finish the investigation so that we have the facts. We do not have the facts. And what you are saying is that we need to stop investigating the facts because you don't believe what you're seeing thus far. I am saying that we have a group of people who are appointed by the President of the United States and his administration who are investigating this, and they need to finish the work. There's at least enough information out there. There's at least enough. Look at the number of people who are being indicted for all types of.
But it has
wait a second. These people lack moral character. They lack ethics. And Trump has surrounded himself with these people. All these people who are part of this investigation are all coming under indictment, which tells me that we should be very suspect of Donald Trump.
Do you think Hillary? Then do you think Hillary
I don't want to talk
Clinton?
about Hillary Clinton because she's nobody. She used to be somebody. She was defeated. We now have a president of the United States who was engaged in.
Do you know why I'm bringing up Hillary? It's because the two guys that were let go. They were not let go. Actually, they were moved to HR department, human resource
because
department.
you would terminate
because of their text messages. Because
you
of their text
don't
messages.
terminate people because of text messages. You
The reason
them.
why I bring up Hillary is because they obviously wanted Hillary Clinton to win. And I don't think even them, they were even having talks with Andrew McCabe.
Well, I don't know that's obvious.
And it was in the text messages that they were talking with Andy about this whole thing. So I think Andrew McCabe, he definitely wanted Hillary to win. So I think there's conflict of interest right there. And Andrew McCabe, I mean, if Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself, Rod Rosenstein had to recuse himself, and and Republicans are trying to impeach him. You know that, right? There are Republicans from the Freedom Caucus that drafted a letter for asking for Rod Rosenstein for impeachment because he didn't release all the documents. It's crazy. Why? How come he can't release all the documents? I don't understand this whole thing. They have this whole thing redacted. It's not us serving. It's not our representatives serving the Attorney General office. It's him serving.
So let me pose this to you. So Jeff Sessions, Rod Rosenstein were appointed by Donald Trump. The people.
Rod Rosenstein was not. He
was appointed by Sessions.
Yeah.
But those.
He was already there. Jeff Sessions.
These are Republicans. These are people who support Donald Trump. His own people are not confident in the information that they're seeing. You can't make it sound like Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions are somehow in bed with the Democrats. It's absurd.
I agree with you on that. They are not. That's why I think probably appointing Jeff. I think Jeff Sessions I think he might have been too gullible. I do think some of the things that he is doing is good, but Jeff Sessions, to me, that was Trump's biggest mistake, and I do agree. This will play out, regardless how I feel about this investigation. It will play out, and there would be some kind of conclusion regarding this.
Let me say one thing about Jeff Sessions. There's nothing about Jeff Sessions' political views that I agree with. But the one time he did demonstrate to me that he had some integrity, he acknowledged that he had inappropriate contacts with Russians, and he chose to recuse himself. He was not told to recuse himself. He made that decision in order to establish some credibility and demonstrate some character in the office of justice and within that investigation, which I thought was a credible decision.
I'll leave with this last word regarding this. So Loretta Lynch, right, the former AG, she had a tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton, right? I think to me that's alarming in itself. So the number one person to be involved in this whole thing, to me that's conflict of interest. This is crazy. This whole thing is just insane. But we can't have a perfect utopia world here. To me, I see this world as very evil. I mean, whenever I see the American politics, in play, there's so many corruption, and this will play out like you want. I don't think Robert Mueller is not going to stop, and I don't blame Robert Mueller to that extent. It's not like he asked for it. He was appointed special counsel. So let's see how this plays out, and
appointed by Trump people.
But Rod Rosenstein is not Trump people.
He is.
He is not. He was Deputy Attorney General even before. He was under Obama administration. So he's an Obama appointee. You can't say that he's a Trump appointee.
He is a Trump appointee.
He's an Obama appointee.
He is a Trump appointee now. He's a career Republican. He was appointed by Jeff Sessions.
He was there already. What I'm saying is he was there already. He was a Deputy Attorney General when Loretta Lynch was there. When Loretta Lynch was there. So that's
he is still their guy.
Yeah, so I think he shouldn't be. I think he should be. I think even Rod Rosenstein has to get out. But let's leave it there, Jeffrey, and let's talk about this issue. It's going to come out next week, and then the week after, Trump is going to have an interview, I believe, with Robert Mueller, and let's see how it goes. And the heated debate
I'm not optimistic for the president.
Okay. All right, but let's see how it plays out. Okay, let's change gears now. So North Korea dictator Kim Jong-un has released 3 U.S. citizens detained for years in his horrific prison camps. This shows that Kim has surrendered yet again to many of President Trump's demands. This all comes as a planned historic summit between the two leaders are approaching. Your take on this, Jeffrey?
Well, I think we've talked about this in the past. I am encouraged that we're moving in a direction to de-escalate the hostility between the United States and South Korea and Japan and North Korea. Kim Jong-un seems to be doing the right things to, in the right order, from meeting with the South Koreans to releasing Americans, doing things that are intended to provide a level of confidence to Americans. So I think that is a good thing. Although, as you know, we've all been to this rodeo before. We've seen he and his father and his grandfather do similar things in the past. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to proceed and hope that we will get a good deal out of this. I think we need to go in with our eyes wide open. I am concerned that we are not using, typical. We still don't have an ambassador in South Korea. We are not really using our professional diplomats as effectively as we can. We could be getting set up for a failure, but I think anything is better than being on the verge of a nuclear exchange.
Yeah. Do you think this whole thing would have happened under Hillary administration or, for instance, Obama administration?
I don't know that we can state that. The one thing that Trump does is he's so impulsive, and he's a little bit like like a crazy guy running around. And
but it's working, right? That method.
So it could be working in this case because sometimes when you have a crazy person, they say somebody was a little bit more crazy than you, that might even give them pause.
That's what I think. Yeah.
So I don't think it's because it's any particularly brilliant strategy. He's a nut.
I think it was a brilliant strategy. I think Trump understands how to deal with these kind of bullies. Kim Jong-un, let's call him who he is. He's a bully. He controls this brutal regime. And people say it's communist. I don't even believe that it's communism. It's just dictatorship. It's a plain out dictatorship. Communism to me, it's like you have to have one controller to have everybody spread out evenly. So that's actually the opposite, complete opposite of real, true meaning of communism. But I think Trump is playing it right. Kim Jong-un got scared because Trump, we don't, like you said, he might be crazy. So he was thinking about, I believe that he was thinking about doing some kind of surgical attack against North Korea. So these 3 hostages, we've been asking them to be released since 2015. So one person has been jailed there since 2015, and they didn't budge because they looked down on Obama. I don't think they were scared of Obama, but I do think Trump had a lot to do with it, so they might be released later today. And because of this, there are some talks that Trump deserves Nobel Peace Prize. I know that it might be painful for you to imagine that, but what do you think about that whole thing?
I think it. We do not have peace with North Korea. We do not have an agreement. We are beginning to establish the framework for discussions. I think it's premature to start talking about giving awards to anybody for something that hasn't occurred yet. Let's see what happens, and if it's borne out that he's somehow or other done something that's meritorious and deserving of recognition, then we can decide about it then. But right now, there's a lot of concern in the manner in which he has approached these negotiations that maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. But
to me, Trump getting Nobel Peace Prize, it's not important to me, to be honest with you. I think it's more important as a Korean American. I want Korea to have peace. I lived through that. When I went to grade school in South Korea, we learned that North Korea, we don't even call them North Korea. We call them Bukgue, which means North Monster. That's how we called them. And we didn't even show who the leader was on TV. And it's just two completely different world. If you look at the picture on satellite, I bet you have once. You see all the lights coming out on the south and north. It's all complete darkness. And I think it really symbolizes how the two countries have become. I think I want the U.S. troop to still be there on the south. I wish that this whole thing comes out with some kind of peace treaty, end of war, because right now, legally speaking, we are still at war, just so with an armistice. So I think we should end the war and have a peace treaty. And I would like to see America's embassy be in Pyongyang, and we have North Korea's embassy here in the States, and somehow we can't be probably buddies, but like the relationship between U.S. and Russia or the U.S. like China, we live in two different worlds, but it doesn't mean that we are completely shut off with their world, right? So I wish that we can probably develop that kind of relationship with North Korea, and the threat would diminish as time goes by.
I think that the best thing we can have is to, for all parties, is to reduce the tension. I think ending the war, we should all agree that formally ending the war creating a framework for future dialogue, which may include upgrading our diplomatic exchange, whether it be an embassy or whatever, or just an interest section. We need to have a framework so that we can engage with them. And over time, we will determine whether we can trust them. We have enough evidence from the Kims that we can't trust them. But over time, through actions that we can quantify and hold them accountable, we can develop that that trust and verification. So we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I believe so too. And for them to release these 3 U.S. hostages that we so wanted, they're Korean Americans. I think it's a good sign of trust. At least I've never seen North Korea show this kind of sign, but we have to always be cautious.
And we got to remember that they killed an American.
Yes, Wambir. Yeah,
last year, which was horrible. So I'm not prepared to come out with and throw roses at him yet.
Me neither. Me neither. You're right.
But I'm eagerly awaiting to see what will develop from these talks.
Okay. All right. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right. It's about being right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Jeffrey.